On behalf of your host, Steve D, this is Bruce Buffer saying thank you for tuning in to Xtreme Life. And now, this is the moment Xtreme Life fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Xtreme Life podcast. I'm here with Xtreme Life Media, and I'm here with Rachael Lippert. She is fighting out of Fearless MMA. Fight normally straw weight, right? 115?
Yeah. Normally we fought out of weight as often as we fought on weight. And after this last fight, we've discussed moving up in weight. Okay,
moving up to 125 or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Hey, you know what? I've seen a lot of fighters move all over the place. Sometimes you just make adjustments, and I've had people normally walk around. I've seen people walk around at like 205 and fight at 170. It's really kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, when we all started this, I was big. I was a little chunkier. Okay. And so we started at bantamweight was my first fight, and then we tapered down, and then now it's like, since I've lost all my weight, I'm starting to put on muscle, and so now I walk bigger, and it's harder every time to make 115. And we missed weight by a pound this last time, and I almost hospitalized myself. So
it gets rough.
We discussed maybe this not being the best way to go. We re-watched the fight afterwards, and I looked slow, very slow.
You were definitely exhausted and dehydrated, probably.
Yeah.
So what your normal walk around weight is? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what's your normal walk around weight?
Lately it's been mid to high 130s. Okay. And so I have to get. Usually I used to walk around at low 130s, and then I would only have to cut from like low 120s.
Yeah.
And then by the time it came to actually sweating it out, it would be like 5 pounds, not that big of a deal. Now, this time we tried to cut from the week of it was 129 was the lowest I could get. And I weigh my food, I train my ass off. My body had never been so battered as it was for this last camp. There was, in my opinion, even though I didn't make the weight, I did everything I was supposed to do to make the weight. So, and then we sat in a sauna for 7 hours, and it just
that's terrible.
I know. And so in my opinion, as terrible as it is,
thinking about
well, and I was trying to stay positive, but my coaches were like, we don't ever want to see I was still joking because that's just how I handle things.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make them feel better, but while I'm dying in the sauna, they're rotating out with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just. And I like being big. I like being muscular. It's I love it, and I give up so much mass to make that weight. So
so maybe it's a good thing to drive it up a little bit to 125. It won't be that bad of a cut.
Yeah, and then I get to get big.
Yeah, and you get huge, right? You come in there and just drive, and that's it's actually a tactic sometimes for people to walk around bigger and then drop, down a couple weight classes or a weight class, because, you're going to do, I know me, I walk around at 205. If I were to fight at 205, I'd get killed, because the guys at 205 are generally 6 foot something.
Right.
I'm 5'10", so it would be a struggle for me to fight at that weight. So I would drop down to 185, which would probably be a better weight for me. And that's a tactic, right? Because I know at 185, even though, hey, it's a hell of a class anyway, but, people would, it's a lot more doable for me at that weight than it would be at 205.
Yeah, and that used to be 115. I'm big for a 115er. I'm 5'4", so I'm on the bigger side. Anyone taller than me is rail skinny, so it's I have the strength advantage in those instances, but with how badly lately I have had to beat my body up to make that weight, I no longer have much of an advantage if I am not quick anymore, so 125 might be, and I've fought at 125 before. It's not like I got knocked out or, I've never been injured, and I have wins, like I've won at bantamweight before. So,
Yeah.
we're thinking it might be the move. And I mean, luckily we have time to try it out. I honestly love the idea after how I felt after this last weight cut. I almost got hypothermia. We think my temperature like dropped to 89 degrees, and it was like,
that ain't good.
like what the fuck am I doing? Why?
Yeah.
I want to feel good when I go out there to fight. Fighting is what I love most, and now I feel like shit while I'm doing it. Like, that's not.
Yeah, and that's one of the, that's one of the things that's been an argument for a long time, especially in the fight game, because you're weighing in the day before, and you see it happen all the time. You weigh in the day before, fighters look like they're super thin. By the next day, they're rehydrated. They come back in, and now they're fighting a little heavier than the actual weight. But it's one of those things that should fighters weigh in right before they get in the cage. To kind of ensure, I mean, and I'm not asking for an answer. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but it's one of those arguments that's been going on for quite a while, because you weigh in right before you get in the cage. It gives you no room at that point. You literally have to fight at or close to your weight class.
Yep. Well, Ohio has same day weigh-ins. I've been offered a few of those, and I've always wanted to try it because I could do a same day weigh-in at 125. For where I end up at the end of a camp, usually, like I said, 129 in this last instance. Yeah. It's 4 pounds. You could easily take that off and put it on and healthily do it in that amount of time and still fight.
And not die.
Yeah. And so I've always wanted to try the same day weigh-in thing. See, my opinion on the whole, like, not weight cutting thing is, I mean, cutting weight, people cut weight because other people cut weight. Like, like we're really all pretty much the same size. So the notion that like if you cut weight, it gives you an advantage. I mean, it does with the few people who don't cut weight, but pretty much everyone is doing it. So you're really all the same size. Mm-hmm. I had that conversation with a fighter, another female fighter. We were supposed to fight, and they were like, well, do you want to do it at 115 or 125? I was like, I don't care. I know I'm the same size as her. So it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I've seen her. We're the same height. We're both muscular. Like, we're the same size. So whether or not we both have to murder ourselves to get in the cage, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Honestly, I do it because everybody else does it. At 125, I'm gonna be short and I'm gonna be small, but
But you're going to be maybe healthier. Maybe you're going to.
I'm going to be healthier. Yeah.
You're not going to come in emaciated. You're not going to come in lethargic. You're not going to come in feeling slow. You're not going to come in feel like, because it crushes you to cut that much weight. And technically, you should never cut more than 10%. Right? That's the rule of thumb. You should never cut more than 10%, because if you do that, especially you're looking at. I mean, I know people that have cut. I know a friend of mine who cut 16 pounds. To make weight in 6 days, which is, that's a hell of a lot of weight to drop, and made weight, and then ended up winning the title on that. But
good
6-day notice. It's amazing, but it had to be. I mean, every fighter I ever talked to tells me the hardest part about fighting is making weight.
Yep. No, it really is. And that's so for this next camp, we're looking at trying to fight in March. We don't have a card or an opponent, but that's going to be the best part about the camp is I know that naturally my weight will taper down into an acceptable cutting range for 125 on its own. I don't need to, I'll still weigh my food. I'll still train like I do, but I don't need to step on the scale every morning. And I don't need to start starving myself near the end if it doesn't work or it does work. I mean, I work with a nutrition coach, so luckily, like, we used to starve me down to weight, and we don't do that anymore. But it just seems like, I don't know, it just seems like I have to do it mostly in water, or at least this last time I did. And I actually had COVID during my camp, so I had to quarantine and all that. And I hear that sticks with you for a while, and that might be why, I retained water.
That slowed you down too, and that could have made you feel lethargic. I mean, that's COVID's no joke. I've seen.
I didn't get the COVID experience, if you will. You
didn't get the full COVID experience.
No, I just had like aches for like a day and a fever, and then I went to the hospital. They tested me. They brought my fever down, sent me home. I never had a fever again, and then I just lost taste for like 4 days, but I was totally fine. Like,
and that's the crazy thing about it, though. It's like you don't know which one you're going to get, right? You don't know how. I know two types of people. I know a lot of people who got it and had no symptoms at all. I know a lot of people who got it and had a little symptoms, just kind of, felt a little funky for a few days, like a regular flu. And then I know people that ended up in the ICU. It's like you just don't know which version you're going to get. The good thing is they're going to start vaccinating, the general public soon. I actually go for my second vaccine on the 11th, which is Monday, to hopefully, like I said, be able to, I just want to get rid of masks. I want to get rid of all that crap. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. It's like you get to that point where you're just exhausted from the whole thing. And I know a lot of fighters, and I know a lot of camps and a lot of gyms that have been terribly affected by all the things that are going on. Even trying to train, right? I mean, that's got to be hard, trying to train in this environment right now.
Yeah, I think I was the only one who had it from our gym. I didn't get it from our gym. I got it from my work. But yeah, I mean, it's like the moment you feel anything. And in a camp, it's really hard, right? Because you're supposed to go in. You're supposed to train.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, but on the same side with the COVID happening, the moment you feel a little off, you kind of got to go, well, am I going to ruin my whole team if I go in?
Yeah.
And then we got lucky in this instance. The day that I went in and I started to feel, I was like a little off. And I told my coach, I was like, I just don't feel right. And I was like, I'm going to leave. And then luckily that day I had felt so off. I wasn't near, I didn't go near, I wasn't like, grappling with somebody or, anything like that. So nobody else got it. All the corners, all my coaches went and got tested. Nobody else got it. It was just me. But yeah, I mean, it's hard when you're in a camp to make that decision.
No, yeah, because you got to train for your fight, and you got a fight coming, and the clock is ticking, and every day counts, right? That one day could cost you to fight. That one day of not training could cost you to fight.
I was going, yeah, I know. I still had to train, and luckily, like I said, I got that COVID that didn't really affect me. So I was going to like the high school outside track.
COVID light. You got COVID light.
I was going hiking and stuff. I was doing anything I could to keep my weight going down and maybe just build cardio while I didn't have partners. But if I would have gotten it the way some people get it, I probably would have had to pull out of the fight. Yeah.
You got to bail out of the fight. And I think most fighters, like I said, I know a lot of people who got it. I know a lot of fighters who got it. But thank God most of them, if not almost all of them, have come through it pretty much without any long-term effects or any kind of hospitalization. But I think most people, the funny thing when I talk to fighters about it, their biggest fear is giving it to another fighter who has a big fight coming up. And then they pop positive before the fight, right? And then the fight gets canceled because that's happened a lot.
Oh God, all over. Yeah. Good cards have been destroyed by this stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, great cards have been totally wiped out, because of this. And luckily, especially UFC has been so creative in having backup cards at this point. I mean, Dana White has done a phenomenal job, and his crew over
incredible.
There with keeping things going through this whole thing because he was actually. I remember in the beginning of this whole thing, Dana was he was like the last holdout, man. He was like, everybody else was shutting down, and Dana's like, no, we're keeping going. I'm buying an island. We're going to go out and do this in an island. And
I mean, that's the thing. The UFC's got a little bit of the luxury, and I'm not saying they probably didn't take a hit buying an island, but they have the luxury to buy an island, Whereas a lot of those cards, they're just not that big, No,
most promotions don't have the kind of money the UFC has, right? And that's
just buy an island.
Yeah, just go say, hey, we're just going to move this thing to Abu Dhabi and do some fights out there. Most promotions don't have that kind of bank account to do that. And you're absolutely right. So they had no choice. And then their cities that they operate in said, you can't do it here, right? I know a couple that have gotten creative and figured out ways. Like I know when they allowed indoor dining, there were some promotions that, they basically took all the seats out and put tables in there and served dinner. And basically, I mean, that's how they got a crowd in there, which was pretty, and that was fairly recent. But I thought that was a pretty creative way of trying to figure this whole thing out because you could eat inside, you just can't have a crowd at a fight, right? So they basically just put tables in there and made people order dinner. That was one of the requirements of buying a ticket. You had to buy it. You bought a ticket, you had to buy a table, You buy a ticket and you have to order dinner. That was
Whatever show that was, tell them to hit me up because
It was CFFC.
after fights and you're like, yeah, I get to eat real food now, and then you go and they're like, yeah, we got chicken strips or something. You're like, I'll fight at somewhere that's gonna serve dinner afterwards.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like, it was more or less food just to have food. It wasn't like, you know, you didn't get like this great, you know, it wasn't like a great restaurant.
You
But
didn't,
it was,
you didn't get like filet mignon.
no, you're not eating lobster
It's
and all
arena.
that other stuff. You know, it was kind of like a Elio's pizza and a thing, you know, but it was actually pretty creative. You know, I thought that was a great way of figuring it out in a tough time.
It's a good way around it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, so tell me a little bit about your journey. Tell me about, how did you get into, you know, mixed martial arts? How did you get into this whole thing?
So my story on how I got into it's not really that exciting. My brother actually fought four.
To be yours.
Yeah. My brother actually fought for Fearless MMA, my gym. He fought for them before me. Honestly, I didn't even know MMA existed. As of like 6 years ago, I had not a clue. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't even know like about the UFC, about fighting. I was like, people do that. Well, I went to my brother's first fight, and the way that he won was incredible. You know, he won dominant on top, on mount, just double hammer fist until the ref like shoved him off. And it was like, I was watching him up there, and me and my brother are very similar. Like, I mean, I'm a little bit more temperamental, but like just in our demeanor, right? And I was like, he looked like he belonged. Like he looked like that was where he was supposed to be. And I was like, you know, I gotta try this. You know, if he looked so comfortable. And so I went and I started training. My brother didn't take me seriously at all. You know, he was like, she'll never stick with it. Because like I said, I was like 160 pounds when I started all this. And so he was like, whatever. She's never done a sport a day in her life. And, you know, he doesn't do it anymore. He had 3 daughters, and that'll fuck most things up. You know, kids are hard.
Kids screw things up. That's why I have dogs. My
dog is so cute.
My dog's great. I can leave my dog at home while I go somewhere. I can't do that with a kid because, you know, they come arrest.
That's illegal.
They come arrest you for that shit. So, like I said,
yes.
But, you know, I just want to say I just want to say congratulations on the weight loss. I mean, that's amazing, right? To be
right. It is.
And then, you know, something focuses you and you are able to drop down to a healthy weight and you look healthy. You look like you feel good. Which is great. You know, it's phenomenal to be able, and then to be able to fight at 115. I mean, I know. That's phenomenal.
Right. I still think about that. I'm like, dude, there are sometimes I weigh as much as I did in like middle school. Like for a few hours, I weigh as much as I did in middle school at a crack. And it's like, it is crazy. And there's nothing left of me though. When I weigh in at that weight, there is nothing left of me. So this time I got out of the sauna and I was like I said, I was joking around trying to keep my cornermen because these 2 cornermen have not cut weight with me, so they did not know what I was going to look like, and they were getting like, you could see it in their face. They were like, yikes. Yeah. And I walked out of the sauna and I was like, is my butt gone? And my one cornerman's like, yeah, didn't you work for like months on that thing? And I was just like, yeah. It's like, I'm going to have to start over. But there's nothing. I'm like a straight, like I'm a pizza box when I get out of there. So yeah. Well, I give up so much of my health to do that.
Yeah, you just got to be careful because people have died in weight cuts.
I know.
You know,
honestly, it's not. I'm super glad that like my whole team, like my coach, who usually my head coach, Patrick Delgado, he's usually not a super big fan of people moving back up in weight. You know, like usually he's like, no, you got to work hard. You need to make weight. You know, like. If you work hard enough, you'll make the weight. That's, you know, usually, and he's usually right, typically. But with women, there's hormones, there's everything. Like, there's so many things that just come along and ruin your day. And he was like, you know, this time he was like, no, I don't. Like, we had a meeting after this fight. He goes, I would attribute most of what I have to say about your fight to your weight cut. He's like, I think this fight was won or lost with how well that weight cut went. And he goes, he's like, I don't think you should cut to 115 anymore. He's like, I think you should definitely fight at no less than like 120, 125. And I was like, oh, yeah, thank God we were in agreement.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it's the right move at this point. So I just want to get back to your brother. You saw your brother fight, and that got you motivated. You were 160 pounds at that time and just decided, you know, this is something you wanted to do?
Yeah, and I thought I would try it out, and I started showing up to some classes and shit. Like it was hard, like at first, being so out of shape, and like I mean, I wore it evenly, but like I was big,
Yeah.
and I was so out of shape, and it was very difficult. But it's with mixed martial arts, it's kind of different exercise. It's not like you go and you got to lift weights up and put them down. You got to run. Like you're learning something, so you're entertained, but you're also exercising.
Yep.
You're like, all right, I have to drill this move. So you're focused on drilling that move. You're not focused on just the fact that you're exercising.
Yeah.
So it really does make it easy.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting, right? Keeps it,
Yeah.
So you're not doing the same thing every day. Like there's programs that I've done, and I've done multi-sports for years, and there's programs that I've done that are just like, okay, this is boring the shit out of me now because it's the same thing every week.
Yeah.
And then you get into other things, and you're absolutely right. I mean, mixed martial arts, you get into different things. Like you could study so many different things in mixed martial arts, whether you're working on your grappling, your jiu-jitsu game, your striking game. A whole bunch of different things can come into play, right? And then there's just the general fitness of it, right? Then there's the general, getting on the assault bike and just hammering out an hour on the assault bike to just get some sweat going. So there's so many aspects you can do in fighting.
Yeah, and then when you actually start fighting, you have to do all of them. I found out.
All of them at once. That's what a camp is.
Yeah, I used to just go into the gym and train. I never ran. I never lifted weights or anything. At first, it was just you show up to the class, and even for my first fight, I ran like a little bit. But it was your first amateur fight. It's as long as you're putting in the work and you're showing up, and so that wasn't that big of a deal. But like the further on I got into my amateur career, it was like, are you running? Are you sprinting? Are you lifting? You should be lifting. You should be lifting outside of all of this gym time. And I was like, oh my God. And now. Back then I thought it was crazy, and now it's just like that's my day. I don't know.
It becomes part of who you are, right? It just becomes, and if you do things enough, it becomes not just something you consciously kind of have to force yourself to do, because that's what exercise is in the beginning. When people first start to get fit and first start to say, I need to change some things in my life and need to get need to get healthier. When people first make that decision, it's work. It's like, I gotta go. Oh God, I'm dreading it. I'm dreading getting on that. And every once in a while, I'll tell you what, I'm on an assault bike program right now to increase my engine a little bit. And because I've been on a heavy strength program for a little bit now, so now I'm going back into the other side of it where I'm working the endurance piece. But even today, I'm like, I don't feel like getting on this damn bike. but what? It just becomes part of who you are. So now it's even on those days where I don't feel like doing it, it's just kind of like, okay, well, I'm more scared not to do it at this point than I am to do it. That's what it comes down to. I think once you get into that pattern, it's like, for me, not to exercise or not to get that workout in a day makes me more nervous, because then what if I'm breaking that pattern? What if now I stop? What if I what's going to happen if I don't?
What does one day lead to? It leads to, I'll do it this weekend, right? And then you lose so much. It is insane how fast you lose everything you gained,
Oh yeah, you could lose it quick. I mean, that's the thing, especially strength and endurance endurance is one of those things that comes fast, but it goes fast. I could build endurance in 3 weeks. I could go from having zero endurance to having ultra endurance in 3 weeks. It's just having a strict program for 3 weeks of doing that, right? Strength takes a long time. Strength takes years. I mean, I got 12-month cycle programs that I do to build strength, right? So there's a lot that goes into that, because you got to shred muscle. Muscle needs to build back up. So there's all kinds of things you need to do in that. And then you add in technical skill, like a fighter has to develop, because you got to build.
Yeah, you lose that too.
Yeah. So, if you haven't rolled with somebody in a while, and then all of a sudden you get on the mat, you're gonna look like ass.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works.
I've been there many times.
Well, hey, you want to get good at grappling, get choked out a lot. That's just the way it is.
That's why I tell people that all the time. New people, I'm like, listen, here's how jiu-jitsu goes. I was like, you suck. for a long time until one day you don't suck anymore. Yeah, I was like, you'll just notice it. I was like, it's not like you gradually get better. Like, or at least for me, it wasn't. I didn't gradually get better. It was like I sucked. And then one day I was like, oh, I'm submitting people. That's crazy. You know, like
I'm choking somebody else out. This is great. Look at this.
Yeah, I was like, believe me, don't give up. I was like, because there just comes a point where it goes from you suck really bad to you're doing all right. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's generally how it goes, especially with grappling and jujitsu, you know, and you know, like I said, you get choked a lot or you get submitted a lot until finally you're the one starting to submit people and choking people out. Just the way it goes. I mean, that's how the game is played. Striking is very similar, right? You're going to get beat up a lot before you get good at that. I mean, you know, I've been more partial to jujitsu. I've been working on my striking a lot. You know, with a lot of people, different people. Jenny Nadell, she's the New York State kickboxing champ. She's been working with me, you know, but it's also, you realize where your holes are in your game when you start working on different things.
Sure. You sure do.
Do you notice that too? Like, you know, oh crap, I haven't done this in a while. I need some work here, you know?
Yeah. So I got injured last January. Yeah. Last January, about a year ago, actually. And, we had to have surgery. And so I couldn't grapple, obviously. So, you know, like when I was first allowed to go back to training, we did striking, you know, just pad work and stuff like that. And, but for the longest time, I was terrified to grapple. I was terrified of somebody stacking me on my shoulder or something like that. And, you know, so I focused so much energy on my striking. And, in this last fight, at least, my striking was like, it came naturally. You know how you kind of go on autopilot sometimes?
Yep.
Like my natural thing wasn't to grapple like it has been in the past. My natural thing was to stay striking. I will say my head movement is a dumpster fire. And we
need to work on that.
That was my whole. So we saw that in the fight, but we hadn't worked on it because again, we thought I was gonna take her down and, you know, do what I do, but that isn't what autopiloted. And so my head movement is a dumpster fire. And I came back after the fight and I tried to work it. I was like, all right, so like in sparring today, technical sparring, that's my goal, head movement. I'm going to work head movement. I don't care if I don't land a single punch this whole time, I'm working head movement. And I posted a picture of my bloody rag after me trying to work my head movement because it didn't go well.
Your head moved into it more than it moved out of it.
Seriously, I was like, some rounds it was like I did okay, and then it either went really well or really, really bad. Like it wasn't like I got popped a few times. I was either getting popped the whole round or not at all. Like so much blood, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, just go through it, man. If you look at me weird, I bleed these days. Like just I'm fine."
Well, you're going to develop. You're tough. That's what you find out through those things. You know, you stuck with it. You kept moving, even though you were getting. You know, you seem to be moving your face into the shots rather than out of them.
Well, my nose is. I mean, this is good lighting right now, so it looks kind of straight-ish. But my nose is so crooked. I've had it broke so many times, and actually, I got it broke in that fight, right? The one I am just now coming back to training from.
Yeah.
Like within 3 punches in. Like to the round or first round, she had broken my nose, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!" It wouldn't stop watering, blood was pouring out, and I was like, afraid to breathe out of it because I don't know how how sometimes fighters will get the puff, where they swell over here, and I was like, I don't want to breathe, I don't want to breathe through it, and then have it, like puff up over here, and they stop the fight for that. So I was like mouth breathing.
Oh. Sounds like that was a tough fight, right? It started off bad and it just got
right out the gate. I was like, this is a shit first round to have.
It's a shit show to go in with, but you know what? Every fighter has it, right? It's not how many times you get hit, it's how many times you get up, right? And how many times you keep coming back. And that tenacity. And, I think it was Mike Tyson who said, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face.
Oh, yeah. No, we had a game plan until I got punched in the nose. And I was like.
And then the plan goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
So
it changes a little bit.
It does. And so you've been working an amateur career for how long now? I mean, when was your first fight?
2015 maybe.
Okay.
I think 2015. That's the thing. I've been an amateur for a hot minute. I have a lot of experience, and it gets harder and harder to find fights every single time, especially fights with records that make sense. Like my coaches this time were like, Rachel, you're going to kind of have to take whatever we give to you, you know, because a lot of times I'll turn down fights that are like that they have 2 fights, 3 fights. And I'm like, no, I have 9 MMA fights now. I don't want to fight somebody who's only fought twice. What am I going to gain from that?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, well, Rachel, whatever we find for you is what you got to take from here on out, because, we got to just get you moving on, like getting these fights through. But most girls are like, they'll go like fucking 4-1 or 4-0, and they're like, oh, that's it. And I'm like, who the fuck does anything 4 times and they're just a professional?
Yeah, no, and I think it's better to stay amateur for a while, get really, really good, get used to, because it's different. Sparring is one thing, but when you actually get into a live event, there's a whole lot of other factors that come into play, and I think you need to get used to that, right? It's like a performer. Any performer, I mean, fighting is a performance. It's a sport, but it's also a performance, right? So, you got to get used to the crowd. You got to get used to the walk-in. You got to get used to the whole pressure around a fight. Because sparring, what's sparring? You go to the gym, you either get knocked out or you knock someone out, right? Or you roll around, you do some rolling. But, there's that safety net there, right? I mean, as a matter of fact, most people get hurt in sparring, but that's just a whole nother conversation.
I got hurt.
That's a whole other conversation. It takes a lot to get used to that whole interaction that happens in a fight. And I think it's smart to stay amateur for a few years and not just run into 4 fights. Because I've seen that too. I've seen people come in, get a 4-0 record in an amateur, then turn pro and then lose like 5 times.
Well, and also if you have and I don't want to say this because like my coach just kind of lets me, he's like, whatever, you're going to do what you want. But a lot of coaches, they'll cherry pick fights for their fighters. So like you went 4-0, but you went 4-0 with like everything in your favor. Mm-hmm. And when you go pro, people don't really do that. They're like, this is the guy. So you either want to get paid or you don't, And so you can, and when you first start out your pro career, you usually can kind of be like, oh no, that guy's not good for us, we'll pass. But for the most part, eventually you just gotta start fighting who you're given as a pro, because that becomes your career. Like I won't be able to work my job once I go pro. Like after a little bit of being pro, that's gonna have to be what I do, So you either want to get paid or you don't. And so I feel like that's what happens is any good coach is gonna kind of like protect their amateur fighter at first. Yeah. If you want a long career, whereas, then you have a really good amateur record and you go pro and then you get your ass whooped because people aren't there to protect you. Promoters aren't there to protect you. And honestly, managers aren't always there to protect you.
No.
So,
and that's their job, to keep their fighters healthy, keep you, do things that make sense for you. But there comes a time where it's outside of their control. They can't do anything with it. The promoter's going to say, here's the fight. This is it. You want it, take it or leave it. That's what they're going to say. And especially if you turn it down, you may not get another fight with that promotion.
Yep, and especially if it's for a belt, then you definitely don't get to pick.
Oh yeah,
if it's a belt,
you take the fight. If it's a belt, you take the fight, and then you go in and you do whatever you can to try to win that. But for the most part, there are exceptions to that. But that's always been kind of my thought process behind that. If it's a good enough fight, no matter who the opponent is, you go in and you take it and you do what you can. And for most people that makes sense, right? In some cases that may not. So that was going to be another question I had for you too, is do you intend to turn pro? And if so, what does that look like for you? When do you think that might be, or is there any projections on that? Or you have any thoughts on that?
We 100% intend to go pro. Like this is what I do. I don't know. This is what lights the fire inside of me. So we 100% intend to go pro, and it's going to be within the next few fights. We do have to test how I do with 125. So the next few will be at 125 to see if I feel better from quicker. This whole entire time we've been trying to make 115 and have that be my weight. Well, that's not going well. So we're going to test 125, and also we just want to. I don't know. I still haven't had that like that fight. Like in my opinion, I've always wanted to have that fight, the war of attrition, where like you are fighting tooth and nail, like both of you, or maybe you're getting your ass whooped for 2 rounds, but you don't give up. Like it shows you what's inside of you, and you come back in that third and you win. I still haven't had a war of attrition, like
the test.
Yeah, that test. Yeah. And I'm not going to wait around for that. We're getting too close now. I was hoping I'd have it by now, but
it'll happen. It'll happen. See, the thing is that things like that happen when you aren't necessarily looking for it.
Right.
So as soon as you relax a little bit, that war will happen. It may happen when you turn pro. I mean, you never know. I mean, that's one of those things that, I think every fighter that stays in it long enough has that type of experience for the most part. And it's, like I said, it's part of the whole process, part of staying in the game. It's part of, and it sounds like you have a lot of motivation to stay in the game. Sounds like you kind of drank the Kool-Aid, as I call it. You drank.
Yep. No, I'm in it now.
You're all in, so it's a long way from that girl that was 160 pounds who went and saw her brother fight and saw him do a ground and pound and said, hey, that's pretty cool. And then against all, I guess what people, I know a lot of people, when you see someone come walking into the gym, you're like, oh man, this one's never going to last. Or this is, and you get surprised once in a while, right? This person comes in and they're still here 3, 4, 5 years later. And actually way better than you ever expected them to be. So
yeah, I don't think anybody expected. My coach actually, after my first fight, he was like, because it wasn't like I came in, tried some classes, and I was like, oh, fighting would be fun. I walked into that gym at 160 pounds, like I'm gonna fight, like that's where we're headed, and everyone was kind of like, all right, and after my first fight, he was like, you said you were going to fight and you did it. A lot of people come in, they say they're going to fight. They show up for a few classes, they spar, they get their ass kicked, they leave, he's like, you said you were going to fight and you did it. Yeah. He was like, and I'm proud of you for that, and so ever since then, that's the thing. I don't have any female partners really. I mean, I have a few grappling ones, but for the most part, the dudes that I'm sparring with, they're like 190 plus pounds. Yeah. And so I think at this point, anybody on my team, like they respect that I'll always try. I'm never just done. I can get my ass whooped so hard during sparring and still come in the next day. So I think at this point, I mean, I've definitely proved it, but I've had people come into the gym and they're like, I'm going to fight. And I'm like, all right, we'll see you in like 2 weeks, maybe, I'm to the point where I've seen so many people come in and say that. And I was like, if you only knew what it takes, dude. And I'm not saying nobody will do it, but it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Absolutely. You got to be tested. You got to go in and you're going to, it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's any martial art. I mean, any sport where you have elite athletes competing. I think I've seen it in CrossFit too. I've seen people come in and say, and I know this is outside of the fighting range, but a lot of fighters use CrossFit to stay fit, right? And stay in shape. But there's a whole sport around that. It's a whole elite level sport, right? And I've seen people walk into a gym and say, I'm going to go make the CrossFit games. I'm like, yeah, okay. How about you lift the weight first?
Dude, every sport is hard for its own reason. Like,
yeah.
Even like WWE shit, people always ask me like, oh, did you see this fight? And like, I roll my eyes a little bit because it's not fighting. Like, and also how hard must it be to like drive to an event where you already know you're going to lose? Like that's been decided for you. How hard must it be to train for that? And like,
well,
but
it's all scripted, but the thing is,
it's hard.
It is hard. Those guys go through a lot of, and I'm the same. Trust me, I'm the same way. When people tell me about WWE and stuff, I'm like, okay, I get it, but, and I kind of
think. It's acting. Yeah. It's entertainment.
It's acting, but I can also appreciate the level of athleticism guys have because, and believe me, I've talked to Mick Foley. I've talked to guys that have been in that game, Ken Shamrock, guys like that. These are all extremely. These guys could do well in MMA. Ken Shamrock did well in MMA. He was at UFC 1
for sure,
for God's sake, and then went over to wrestling. He started out in wrestling, went to UFC, left UFC, went to back to wrestling, and then did dual sports. He did both for a number of years. So most of those guys can compete. In a combat sport that's not scripted out too. So, I could certainly respect their athleticism. and sometimes it's fun to watch, what they're,
I can respect their athleticism for sure. Listen, it is still difficult. It's not hard for the same reason.
Yeah.
But I can't even walk half the time. I trip over my own feet. I am like the least graceful person. I don't know how the hell I became a fighter. I don't know my lefts and rights. I can't fucking walk a straight line half the time without tripping over myself. These people, if you asked me to jump off the ropes and do like a backflip, I would be like, I'm not dying
Do
today.
a Jimmy
like,
Superfly Snuka off the top rope, right?
Yeah.
Forget it.
And I have the weirdest, fears, irrational fears. I swear to God, let's see, like lifting weights wise, I'm terrified. Like, let's say, like to do a pull up and stuff like that. Like that kind of shit freaks me out. I'm like, I'm just supposed to let go and hang and like lift myself. Like I'll get in like this freeze when I go to do that. I'm like, there's no fucking way.
Punch somebody in the face and get punched in the face. What?
Yeah, but like if you're like go spar with this dude who's 190 pounds, I'm over here like I'm gonna whoop his ass. Like I always get like they always tell me that like Rachel, you're not a 250-pound male. Like you have to like check yourself. You're tiny because I'm like those little chihuahuas that think they're like a giant ass dog. That is definitely me.
Right.
I'm always like this new guy comes into the gym and I was just like, yeah, I'll get him.
Yeah. Well, hey. And you know what? I'll tell you what, I know a lot of girls that would kick a lot of guys' asses. So
it is one of my, God, either way, you're getting your ass whooped. Like if you come into the gym, there's a good chance. So either I'm going to be pissed off because you won't hit me because I'm a girl, which I don't get offended easily, but that offends me. And I try to whoop your ass. If you're not going to hit me, fine. I'm going to beat the shit out of you then. Because I get upset. I'm a fighter. Like I feel almost like disrespected. Like I'm a fighter. You think I can't take a hit from you? Yeah.
I'll fuck you up. Don't take it easy on me.
Yeah. And it's like, so, but if you come in and you'll spar with me right out the gate, like we're going to have a good round. But like at the end of that, dude, I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative that you took me seriously as an athlete. Like I've been hit enough. You are not going to be the difference between,
yeah,
me dying or not, but they're like, no, I don't hit girls. And I'm like, I'm the girl you can hit. Like,
yeah. And you've probably been hit harder by some girls than some of the guys will hit you anyway. So
dude, fucking Helen Peralta. There is no reason for somebody the same size as me to be able to hit that hard. And you want to know, this chick had the balls to tell me the last time she came to train with me, because we've been training together since like the beginning.
Yeah.
She had the balls to tell me I was hitting her too hard. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, I put up with years of your shit, Well, she was like, yeah, you're like trying to knock me out. And I was like, no, man, I'm just fat right now. It just feels that way.
Some people have just natural bricks in their gloves. I mean, it's just really, some people, and punching and striking, got to realize that's something. Some people have it very naturally, and other people have to train it really like a lot. And I've learned that a lot throughout this whole adventure of my life is some people have just that natural, they twist the hip the right way and the punch just lands the right way, and and damn, it hurts.
Oh God.
It hurts, but
does it ever?
But and then there's people like that have to really train it, right, and really work it, and get to that point, and that's fine. That's me too. Trust me, that's me too. I'd rather roll around on the ground with somebody than trade blows with them. I really would, even though some people. I mean, I funny thing. I was training at Ray Longo's place a while back. And it was actually one of the, and that's where Jenny trains out, and I work with her there. But, it was one of the coolest moments of my life when I'm working on my striking, and I don't consider myself a striker at all. And then I look over, and Ray Longo gives me the nod. I'm like, wow, that is cool. It's freaking Ray Longo, for God's sake, So I'm like one of the best striking coaches on the planet. And then, just to hear, hey, you're hitting like a truck today. That feels good. The thing is when you're whaling pads though, sometimes that's, something's got to hit you back too. And that's where that's where you really get tested.
Yeah. I always think that I'm doing it. Like even now, like even after working on my striking pretty much almost exclusively since I was allowed to come back to training after surgery. I went down to go visit, down to the Wolves Den, and I think it's Florissant or something, Missouri. Yeah, St. Louis. It's somewhere around there. Yeah. And with some of the kickboxer girls that were on Team USA, it's Liz and Lily Helton. Every time I think I'm doing good with my striking, I go down there and they check my shit like every time, because Lily's a kickboxer, man. Like, she is just on you all the fucking time. Like, I went and sparred with her during my camp and she almost made me puke, because like I did not have the cardio to keep up with her. She was on me all the time, and I was like, seriously, I was like push kicking. I was like, get the fuck away from me at the end of it.
Yeah.
And she's the same size as me, so like when she'll kick me, like I would kick her, you know, like we don't have to worry about there being a discrepancy. She painted my leg, like I had bruises all over, and we were wearing shin pads. Like every time.
Yeah, she traditional Muay Thai. Like
Muay Thai I think she's definitely a kickboxer. I think she's done like maybe 1 or 2 Muay Thai fights, but I don't know that they were like full Muay Thai. Yeah. And then her wife, Liz, was a boxer, and then she trained kickboxing, and she's just like never in front of you. Yeah. You know, so like they're frustrating for different reasons. She's not as much volume, but you can't ever find her. You know, like head movement, I need to go hang out with Liz.
Well, that's it. I always took it like this: train with people that are better than you at the things that you need to work on.
If you're the best one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like, that's what my coach has always said. As soon as you're the best one in the room, you need to find a different room.
Find a new room. Like, what do you think of so let's talk UFC 257. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. What do you think? Who comes out of that one?
Honestly, I have Dustin this time, because Conor doesn't fucking need it anymore. Like, Dustin's still hungry. Dustin's still, and I mean, he's not the same fighter he was the last time they fought at all, you know? So it's like, I don't know. I kind of got Dustin in this one. I just don't feel like Conor needs it enough anymore. And you have to have that hunger. You have to have that drive from somewhere. Yeah. And I think it's been, and I mean, his coach came on record disagreeing, because a lot of people made comments about that. He just doesn't look like he wants it anymore. When he was, you know, everyone's like talking about how he started from nothing and he was starving and homeless and all this stuff. And yeah, he needed it then. Yeah. He worked hard because he wanted it. He had that fire in him, but now he's got everything he could possibly want. So, you know, really
$100 million will make you a little bit relaxed.
Yeah. What's keeping him going, I guess, you know? So
I don't know. He looked pretty good against Cowboy. He looked better than I've seen him. He looked heavier than I've seen him when he fought.
I think going up in weight was a good.
Yeah, going to 170.
I think it was good for him. He looked real gross at 145.
Yeah, no, he looks good at that weight. And he looked good against Cowboy. He did a real good job. First time he met Dustin, you know, it was a first round fight. That was pretty much it. Was a ground and pound.
Fuck, man.
You know, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. They're two different fighters now, and that's I often say that. One of my fights that I would like to see is Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko, number 3. I would love to see that for the third time.
Who did you have winning that last one?
Last one was close. I mean, it was close. It could have went either way, I think.
It was close. And I get that, like, you have to win it to win it, but, like, honestly, I thought Valentina, like, she snuck it in there. I thought, but
she might have. I mean, it was the same thing I saw when I saw Jones versus Reyes. I was like, okay, it could go either way. I kind of thought Reyes won it. But
I guess though, if you're gonna take a belt from somebody, I guess you gotta take the belt. You know, so I get that too.
That's what I was kind of gonna say. I was gonna say, to win a belt, when you're looking at a championship fight, in most cases, number one, never leave it to the judges. That's a it's a real rough thing to get past, because there's not a lot of good MMA judges out there. Most of them are boxing judges, and they don't understand MMA at all.
Nope.
But you know, you get into that when you go up against for a title, you have to almost dominate that person. You have to come in and if you're going to go to decision, you have to really win almost every round.
It has to be a landslide decision. Yeah, it really does, because I mean, you got to think, like, the judges can't. How hard it would be for a judge to split decision give a belt to somebody else, because there's going to be so many people who are like, you're fucking wrong. You're like, this is bullshit. You know, like, split decision means it was that fucking close. And It'd be hard to rob somebody of their, not rob, but take somebody's title over that close.
You're taking a title over a decision that could have went either way. And that's a hard pill to swallow for anybody. I mean, it sets up a great rematch, which, like I said, I'd love to see Amanda versus Valentina again, because number one, I think it'd be a great fight. Number two, I think there's a lot of things unresolved from that second fight. And, number three,
who the fuck else is they going to give Nunes?
Yeah, she's ran through the whole division. There's nobody left.
Stick her with the men, and
there's nobody. Let's start fighting men. Yeah, maybe she should fight Jake Paul. That would be great.
Yeah, they joked about that, but I was kind of like, low key though, like, that would be entertaining. People would pay. They would fucking pay for that.
I'd rather see him fight her than anyone else right now, to be honest with you.
But mostly because we want him to get his ass whooped by a girl. Like
that's exactly right. I don't like him. I've made it no secret that I don't like him. I would fight him. I would love to fight Jake Paul.
Many people, like, they fight like these fucking YouTube stars or some shit. They fight one time and they're like, yeah, I'm the best. And I'm like,
yeah, but you look at who they fought, right? You look at who these guys are fighting. I mean, Nate Robinson. It's not even. I mean, that looked like a. Did you see that? That was.
I saw the knockout. I don't know.
Nate Robinson is still out cold.
Yeah, he's still laying there. They left him. They clean around him.
They just kind of like leave him as an ornament there now. But he shouldn't even have been there. He's going to get hurt if he don't stop fighting.
They got to stop fucking. They have to stop letting this shit happen. Honestly, this whole
someone's gonna die.
That's what it's gonna take. It's gonna take that. Like McGregor. Like, okay, what did you think of his boxing fight? She shouldn't have been. Like, I don't know. He did better than I thought he would, but also was Floyd kind of letting him,
Yeah, he's not a fighter. I mean, he's not a boxer. He's a fighter. He's just not a boxer.
He's got great hands, and he's got that knockout. He's one of those people that I feel like just has that natural, like, twist in time, like.
Yeah, McGregor can knock people out. There's no doubt about that. He's got a hell of a punch. But when you're looking at MMA versus boxing, they're two different sports. They're two,
and it's for a fucking reason.
Yeah, they're two completely. Now I do both, right? I'll box and I'll do MMA, but there's a difference with the gloves. There's a difference in your blocking with the gloves. There's a difference with everything you're doing. If you got 4-ounce gloves on, you're not blocking the same way. You can't use the gloves the same way you do. You can't roll off the shoulder like you would because you'll get killed. If you try to roll off a shoulder like a boxer does with an MMA 4-ounce glove and someone's striking you with that, you'll get your head knocked off.
Yes, you will.
But it's just one of those things. Now you also got what's his name, Logan Paul fighting against Mayweather, which I think is that's going to be another shit show. Because
that's the one where somebody dies.
No, because I don't think Mayweather's going to do that. But I think he's going to outclass him pretty badly. I think it's going to look ridiculous. Someone said to me the other day. Now Floyd Mayweather has a 50-0 record, right? He's never lost. 50-0, 50 boxing and never lost a fight. It would be unbelievable if he lost to Logan Paul.
Could you imagine having to go home after that? Like, go and you're finally alone and the hype and shit's done, and that's what you think about. Because if you're any fighter worth a shit, that's what happens. The moment you get alone is when all that shit settles in, and you realize what you just lost or what you just won or whatever. Yep. The moment you're alone, and fuck, man, to give up your 50-0 record.
50-1 to Logan Paul. That would be. I mean, it won't happen. I don't think it even has a chance of happening in the realm of reality.
It's a fight, right?
But I'm like, what if he gets lucky and just throws a punch?
Right? Yeah, because it's a fucking fight. Anything can happen.
Well, I thought this over. This is why I love jiu-jitsu so much and grappling is, here's the thing. Anybody can get lucky with a punch. You could have somebody who's not even a fighter who gets in a cage or even anywhere with a professional fighter who knows how to fight, gets lucky with a punch and knocks that person out. You just need to get hit in the head the right way. That's it. It can happen. Unlikely, but it can happen. If you roll around on the mat with somebody who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and you're not, you have zero chance.
You're not catching them.
You have zero chance of winning that fight. So, just my thoughts on that. But, Anything you want to plug? Anything else going on that you want to talk about? You don't have any fights coming up, right? Right now, you're kind of just in a hole.
We're aiming for March, but it's going to be finding a promotion or opponents. So if you know anybody, if anybody watches this,
yeah,
we'll travel. We like traveling.
So you want to fight? I'm going to put the word out.
Oh fuck yeah, I want to fight. I always want to fight.
Listen, fight at 125. We're gonna get that out. Appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Real quick though, can I
go ahead.
Plug something? Okay.
Plug.
I suck at the whole social media thing. If anyone wants to follow me, it's at _Team Lippert. You can add me on Facebook. I don't do a fighter page because, again, I suck at the social media stuff. I'd appreciate it because any sponsors, that's the first thing they look at. They don't care how pretty you are, how funny you are, how hard you train. They care how many followers you have and how many people are going to see their products.
So you got to up your social media game.
Fuck yeah, I know. And I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to toot my own. I'm funny. Like, the fuck? Follow me.
You were good on this. You were good here. This is great. This was a great interview, in my opinion. So.
I have one sponsor, and what I will say is he helped me raise money for my my rehab on my shoulder and all the shit as an amateur with as many followers as I do have already. He was not one of those. He's very rare where he was like, she's just she works fucking hard. I want to back her, and that doesn't happen very often. So HKA USA is it's a glove and shin guards brand. He's kind of a smaller business. He's actually got a lot of UFC fighters that he sponsors now. So he's getting out there. But good. If you want to go look at his great quality gear, it's from Thailand. And if you do, and you go because you've seen this, Team Lippert 20 for 20% off, use my code, please, because then he'll know I sent you.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And you did a great job today. And I think it's going to, you're going to hopefully get some good traction from this and, be able to get some more sponsors coming down the road. You do got to up your social media game because you're absolutely
Oh, my God.
correct. Sponsors care about that stuff. That's what they care about most is how many people.
Yeah, and everyone's got T-shirts.
Oh, they want to know how many people you can reach for them. That's generally where that comes from. So thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it.
No problem.